a place where we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. I am your host, Asher, and our guests today are two incredible women who are making massive impact in the world through their specialties. I have Myrna Lane. I'm not even gonna say the last name, Myrna. I'm not gonna say the last name. And I have Tina Murphy. But I would start with Myrna, so she can kind of give you the correct spelling and pronunciation of her name, because I tried a couple times, I'm still messing it up. So Myrna, could you tell us a little bit about you, what you specialize in, how you add into the value to the world, and who you being a hero to?
All right. So my name is Myrna Laine-Hyppolite, and
Mhm.
I am a financial wellness coach and a wealth strategist. And I work primarily with powerhouse women to turn their amazing income into their first $1 million in net worth, even if they're new to investing in the stock market or are not financial professionals. So I founded my business, Empower Financial Wellness, on the premise that, hey, if your financial house is not in order, I don't care what you tell me, the rest of your house is not going to be in order. So, helping women gain that sense of financial wellness, which means knowing that if something happens, you got an emergency, you got funds to fall back on, knowing that you're living your life to not just pay bills, but to do the things that you want to do in life. All that's part of financial wellness. And so that's what my company was founded on. And I really specialize in helping women build wealth by investing in the stock market.
Wow, thank you so much, Myrna. And I see Tina, you were shaking your head the whole time. You was like, "Oh yeah, I love where this is going." Tina, talk to us a little about you and where you're hailing from too, and also where you specialize in, where you adding value to the world.
Yeah, so my name is Tina Murphy, and I am a life and money coach for widows. I basically help widows make a financial game plan so that they can feel better about their healing process and take control of their spending in this new journey of life. So, yep,
Thank you. And where you hailing from right now?
I am from Missouri.
Missouri. Missouri. And what about you, Myrna? Where you hailing from right now too?
Sunny South Florida, Fort
Sonny.
Lauderdale.
All right, we're gonna go back and forth to the Missouri side of the house and to the Fort Lauderdale side of the house. Actually, I love Florida. One of the places that when I first I had one of my first wife actually. She was living in Hialeah, Florida, close by you there, Myrna.
Yes, yes, that is close by.
It's close by you. Okay, so talk to us. So today's theme is around victories. So we get to celebrate victories that we've had along the way in both our experiences. All three of us going to talk about victories, and I know you ladies got a lot of victory story to share to us today. So I'm gonna start with you, Myrna. If you had to give us an empowering part of your path that has make you so impactful today, transform your life in a certain way, some of those victories, what will you start with?
I would start with the realization that came with wanting to live to my purpose.
Mm,
So, the reason that I really started my business was to fulfill that actual purpose. I wanted to be able to help women in managing their money because what I had experienced was victory for myself, right? Being able to understand the world of investments, being able to get to the point where I could build a legacy for my children and understanding I had to go about it the hard way. So the victory for myself was being able to learn about those things because coming from a Haitian household, I am Caribbean background, the trifecta of success for my family was you work hard, you go to school, and you go out there and you get a good job. If
mm,
you did those three things, you essentially made it. So, from that perspective, yes, I was very successful. I am successful, but I didn't know how to manage my money. And so I've been able to, victory for me was to be able to go through my life experiences, learn what I needed to learn so that I can now transfer it and transmit it to other women. And so the win for me is to be able to, one, live to my purpose
mm.
and establish a business that allows me to help women build wealth, establish that legacy of wealth. So that is a major victory. And then second win would be when I see my clients actually deliver results. I see them changing their lives. That to me is the biggest win of all, because not only did I decide, hey, I'm going to establish this business and live to my purpose, which gives me personal fulfillment, but it's seeing my clients, the lives that I'm changing. When I see someone that comes in and says, hey, I know nothing about investing, to establishing a portfolio, being able to pick their own investments and seeing those investments grow and making a major change in their life and to their financial future, that is a win-win.
Hmm. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Myrna. And I have to ask you this other part because I love what you were sharing just now. And you sound like you had defeated an anti-hero. I'm trying to figure out the anti-hero that you defeated to be in the place you're in right now. How did you do it? Like, what did you do and how did you do it?
Yeah. Well, for me, it came with a lot of hard work and looking at what others were doing, right? Because I'd be in a situation at work, my very first job out of college, I wasn't making that much money, right? I was, living paycheck to paycheck, splitting that first paycheck in half so I could pay the rent. And I was looking at, friends, colleagues, coworkers are saying, oh, well, I invested in such and such a stock. And, or, my grandmother left me like 1,000 shares of, General Motors stock. And I was like, what are you talking about? And
Hmm.
so it was by listening and looking at other people. My first job was actually mutual fund accounting, and it was just processing the transactions. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know what went behind the investment decision making process. And I decided to go to business school full time. I went to an Ivy League school, got my MBA so that I can get a job analyzing and studying and understanding as an equity research analyst, those people that recommend stocks to institutions. I could do that job and understand the whole investment process and what went behind the scenes. So at first it came from the, I don't know, I felt like I was missing out on something. I felt like there was a big piece of information that I didn't know about, which I didn't know about investing, right? And when I came out of business school, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to hurry up and pay off these student loans, and I wasn't even thinking about investments, right? Whereas had I started from the very beginning, even $25 here, $10 here, I would have been much better off. So really, to me, the anti-hero was looking at, others and not having an opportunity and being deprived of that opportunity because I didn't have the education or the knowledge.
Wow, thank you so much again. I see Tina shaking it. I know this makes sense to you, Tina, because you gotta the only way for you to be shaking heads so much, you gotta be make sense to you. So explain that to us what makes sense to you over there.
Well, to me, because I was before my husband passed away in 2013, I was a personal finance teacher for 16 years. So I would teach people about basic financial management skills. But I mean, the thing about it is hearing you talk about the stock market, I mean, they intentionally make it difficult for us to understand the market, right? So we are put to a major disadvantage because they don't necessarily want us to know. So I think we're all in that boat. And even though I tried to teach my students about personal finance and a little bit about the stock market, it was just like we were dibbling and dabbling and stuff in the different topics and stuff. So, yeah,
Hmm.
so that's how I definitely understand, not understanding the market and stuff.
How would you relate some of your victories in your own personal life with just navigating
Well,
this area?
so for me, it was like because I was a personal finance teacher, I thought, I understand how to manage money because I've been teaching my students for the last 16 years how to do it. And then when my husband passed away, um, I started overspending and spending lots of money as a way to feel better. I was taking my kids on cruises. We were buying a bunch of stuff. I didn't buy a ton of stuff, but I
Mm.
still was like over shopping. And, I was like, oh, we're going to go on a cruise. So we're going to go on the top level of it, the balcony level. And, and then I was like, how is it that I don't know how to manage my money? and why, I must be a failure with finances because here I've been teaching students for 16 years and my spending is out of control. And what I realized is that I had a lot of unreasonable expectations for what grief was. And I didn't understand how my emotions that of dealing with grief were affecting my spending because as we're in this big self-help era where we all want to be positive and all this other stuff, and I wasn't positive. I was still upset with the fact that my husband had passed away, and I was like, oh, there must be something wrong with me, so I better go out and like buy some new program that's going to teach me how to be more positive and buy more books and stuff to understand this. And I was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm actually a human who has some big emotions. And once I started to understand like what grief was really like, and there was nothing wrong with me, and there was nothing wrong with being sad and missing my spouse like 5, 10 years later, I wasn't overspending and trying to buy things to be happy. So
Mm. I would tell you this, well, thank you for sharing that, by the way. And just listen to both. I'm trying to connect some point here real quick. 'Cause I'm seeing where the managing your own money and managing somebody else's money, the difference between the two, and then the emotional piece that tied to money. And so I know sometimes the right number will make you there and the wrong number will ruin your life. But sometimes when somebody manages their own money, I see it sometimes where it's easy to manage other people's money when managing your own, it's a little bit more challenging because of the emotional piece. So how you guys navigate that? I'm gonna start with you, Tina. How you guys navigate that piece where somebody emotional ties to money and then how to manage other people's money versus your own?
well, I think that it's getting clients to be aware of what is important to them. And I think that's the thing that we don't always talk about is what are your values? What are you interested in? And then when you start to understand what you want to be spending your money on, then saying no to things like that you don't necessarily want, then you don't go and overspend. So I have my clients make what are called a yes list, like what's important to them. So I have clients that have like Disney trips that they want to go and do. So instead of going to Target and overspending, they are like, oh, I'm actually saying yes to having this money to go to my Disney trip and no to Target so that they can put their money towards something they want instead of, just telling themselves no all the time.
Hmm. And from your investment side of the house there, Myrna, how do you look at this process with the emotional ties to money?
I think you try to remove a certain level of emotion when it comes to investing. So, what I do with my clients is that before we even get started, they get a questionnaire that helps them understand what their risk profile or their investor persona is, so to speak.
Mm,
Because investment to me is kind of like food preferences, right? Some people like spicy food, some people eat seafood, some people are
mm,
vegans, etc. That's kind of like the way investing is. What I think I want to be invested in may not be what you, Asher, want to be invested in, or you, Tina, may want to invest in. So you got to take that into consideration, right? So once you do that, you understand if you're that type of person that's going to take to the bed, if your portfolio goes down by 10% in one day, then there are certain investments that you shouldn't even be in. So that removes the emotion because you already know off the top that you are going to be invested in something that's aligned with what you can tolerate, right?
mm,
So that's one way. The second way that I remove emotion from the factor is automating the investing process, right? I don't leave it up to chance for you to say, okay, this month I'm going to put in $100. Okay, next month, oh, market is up. Let me put $500. No, we're just going to automate the process like clockwork. You don't even have to think about it. You set it aside based on your risk tolerance. You invest in this particular fund, this particular stock, and you keep it moving. So when you remove the emotion, right, it's a lot easier to go through a process because you've automated it and you've already taken into consideration what's going to get you all riled up.
mm. The next question would be how do you get to the point where you are that skillful at removing the emotional piece? Because I have a friend, he does a lot of investing too, and some days he just he's just sometimes he's in a rut, like I'm losing, I'm losing. It just eats at your system sometimes when your numbers is not playing in your direction. So how do you work with that emotional piece? Because I think it's very challenging.
It is challenging, but you have to think long term. Like, I think it's a different type of emotional profile. If, let's say, for example, you're a trader, right?
Hmm.
Trader, you're dealing with short-term transactions, less than a year, in a day, there could be a lot of volatility and a lot of movement. But if you are a short-term an invest or a longer-term investor, so to speak, then that's a different thought process, right? Because the market could go down, but you know that over time, the market, has ups and downs, and that over time, you're pretty much going to be made whole or you're going to have a decent return depending on your investments. So that helps remove, you're still going to experience the emotion, but if you're in it for the long term and understand that, okay, I'm going to have fluctuations in the market, then it's easier to digest versus I have a trade and I'm in an option and it expires 2 weeks from now and I'm out of the money and I'm losing, my shirt. There's going to
Hmm.
be a lot of emotion there.
Uh,
But I think for me as a coach, what I would do with my clients, it's doing what Myrna says is like understanding how the market is going to work, because
mhm.
that's a piece. Like it's understanding what kind of investments you're doing, how does the market work, understanding all the rules. And then for me, I would help my clients to process those emotions. How do we deal with those emotions? Because money is very emotional. And I am starting to use like tapping as a way to calm our nervous system down, because that's also a big factor. Like if your nervous system gets all worked up, then you are going to be calling, your coach or your financial advisor because you're in panic mode. But if you can learn skills to like calm yourself down so you can listen to what your advisor is telling you, then you can move forward and actually make good financial decisions instead of like, pulling your money out when the market goes down instead of leaving it in there and letting, riding the wave out.
Mm. So if we had a transition into where now we got to figure out how do we talk about investment, but then people that doesn't have any money trying to build back up. How you guys approach that? People in that place where I need to make more money because the economy is like I need to supplement something, so forth and so on. How you guys approach that process for people that are going through it right now?
Well, for me, one of the things I do is we got to get a clear financial picture of what you have coming in and what is going out. So that's one of the major things is I don't like to call it a budget. I like to call it a spending plan, because again, with a plan, you're planning on where you want your money to be going. So it is understanding that. And then it's trying to find the areas where we call them like leaks, where money is just like
Mhm.
going off without any, you're not paying attention to it. And a lot of us, I just heard Kate Northrup use the analogy of like, you don't take your kids in to like Target and just let them like run wild and do whatever they want. But we will go into Target with our credit cards and we will just go, whoo, like go and spend a bunch of money. And so we have to kind of like think about where is our money going, and do we actually want our money to be going to those places? And then, that can start to bridge some of the gap, because right now we can't control what um, the groceries are going to be, what the grocery store prices are, right? But we can control whether or not we have 10 subscriptions to, internet provide like TV providers if we're not using them, pause them, get rid of them if you're not using them. So that's where I would look at ways for them to, be more intentional with their money during this time.
Mm. What do you think about that storyline, Myrna?
I definitely agree with Tina. The money leaks need to be addressed, right? Because sometimes you're not even aware that you have these so-called leaks, which are kind of like the unconscious, impulsive things that we don't even know is happening. The gym membership that you're not using, the media subscriptions, Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix. You don't even have enough eyeballs to watch that kind of media. So
Mm.
cutting off those things is important. And budgeting sometimes can be a four-letter word, but like Tina says, is tracking your expenses, tracking your income. That's the important thing. So that's one. So I agree with everything that Tina said. But in addition to that, I think maximizing the tools that you have is important. So, for example, you may not have a lot of money, but you may still be putting a little bit of money aside. If you are putting money aside, what type of interest rate are you getting on that savings, right? Because right now in this environment, if you are not getting at least 4% on your money, then you need to ask your bank, what have you done for me lately? And what are you going to do for me? And that's a way to grow your money. You're going to save anyway. If you're going to save, make sure that you're maximizing your savings. If it's sitting in a savings account that's next to a checking account that's generating less than 1%, that's not maximizing what you have. If you don't have that much to begin with, you got to make your tools work for you. And the last thing that I would add to that is the fact that you need to be monetizing your skills. I am a big proponent, and I tell my clients this all the time, that you need to have more than one stream of income, right? Monetize your gifts. What do you have out there? Can you do some freelance work? Can you go out there and do some Uber? Can you start a business, consult, do a digital? Can you be a virtual assistant? Start or be a social media manager. A lot of people are skilled at that, and businesses need that skill. So take a skill that you have. Are you a good speaker? Can you monetize that? Can you go talk to those college students? The schools need speakers. Whatever it is, get an additional source of income, because the way you build wealth is not just by working a job or working your business and having to work hard. You need multiple streams, right? Because if one dries out, then you have another, you have something to fall back on. And if you're in that situation where you're pinching pennies, having that additional stream of income will give you options to potentially pay off your debt and to free you up to do more things.
Wow, that was amazing. I'm curious though, man. Why is this you still so passionate? Why is this thing so important to you right now? Why is this thing you're working on, the life you're living right now, so important? Around the
It's
money stuff.
important because I've seen in my own life,
Mm.
right, how much being disciplined when it comes to your money, how much of a difference that can make. And I've seen in the lives of other people who aren't as disciplined how that can lead to a whole different direction. And I've seen it in the lives of my clients, right, that I work with, and I've seen how getting organized around your money, solving those money leads, getting into a good savings plan, having a plan to repay your debt, putting together money so that you can go on those trips and do the things that you want to do, how it makes a difference in your life, right? Because if you're there, you're miserable, you can't, you're living paycheck to paycheck, you got debt, you don't know what to do, you're just living to pay bills. It's a different feeling than, hey, I can go out there and take that trip, or I have money in my bank account in case something happens, or I'm investing because, hey, my kids can have a better future and I don't have to start from scratch every generation. So I'm really passionate about this stuff, to be honest. If you weren't able to tell, I'm sorry.
No, I could see, but sometimes the passion is important for people to come out of the dark. So the folks that are in the dark, where they're embarrassed about their situation, they're overwhelmed about their situation. They have no, they just don't know how to step out of it. Like, how do you connect with those people to step out of that space and take on the expertise that you're offering?
Well, for me, I offer, a safe space, particularly for women. I do have a Facebook group, which is a financial empowerment community for women. And it's a safe space, right? Where there are no stupid questions. Even people who work with me, I tell them there are no stupid questions, and that, nothing is assumed. And then knowing that you have the burden of, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I'm going to be judged. I don't judge anybody, right? Because sometimes certain things happen to you. It's not your fault. Like I was telling you at the beginning, it wasn't my fault that my parents never educated me about investments. They never told me how much to save, how much to put aside, or anything. It wasn't my fault, right? But it's not your fault. Sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes people make mistakes because they don't know. And taking the step to fix your situation is the very first step and the first pat on the back that you got to give yourself, because Things may have happened in your past, but that doesn't mean that you can't fix your future.
Oh, Tina, I gotta ask you, same question here. For the folks that are feeling a certain way about their situation, not having the funding or the money, made a lot of mistake with their money, but how do you get them to come out of that space and start sharing to get the help they need through your service or through your specialty?
Well, for me, I already know that I've made my own mistakes. And so I'm open about the fact that I've made my own money mistakes, and no one is perfect. And just like Myrna, I don't sit and shame people, because I think that's the problem with a lot of financial experts is they like to use like they like to approach it in a shame way. And if like shaming worked, we would all be geniuses at everything we do, right? Because we shame ourselves all the time. And that's the thing, it's not working. And, so providing people with a safe place to allow them to share what is really going on and to be open. Like for me, my widows, they don't have that anymore. Like they don't have their partners there to talk with them about what's going on. So allowing them to talk with somebody else that they can connect with. Like I already know how widowhood can be, so I can relate to them on that. And then I'm open about my own mistakes. And I don't let my clients, the one rule I don't have is that you can't should on yourself.
Mhm.
So you can't say, oh, I should have done that. Like, right? I'm very quick at calling them out, not in a mean way, but just like, hey, like it's okay. Where were you supposed to have learned this? And I have a lot of people that tell me the same thing, like, oh, I should know this by now. And it's like, where, when, who, like, who was going to teach you this? And so now we're doing that and we're helping them. And I think that's the great thing about women getting into this finance world is we're shaking it up and we're making it a calmer, a safer, better place for people to learn about this environment that has been very closed off from a lot of us.
Hmm. I'm sensing that your husband was the catalyst for this work you're doing, but I don't want to assume that. I'm gonna ask, so why is it so important for you? And was he that catalyst for you for the work you're doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for me, when you can turn a tragedy into something else, yeah, I mean, losing my husband when he was 40 years old and I was 38, it was crappy. Or
Hmm.
if I can say the other words, it was terrible. But that's what it is. And when I realized what I was doing and that I didn't understand grief, and that as a society, grief and money are two topics that nobody wants to talk about, right? Like you're not supposed to share how much you make, and people want you to be like over your grief because it makes them feel uncomfortable when you have these big emotions. Well, as humans, we're going to experience all of that. You're going to experience grief, you're going to experience, we're dealing with money on a regular basis. So once I took the interest that I had as a teacher. Like I loved teaching personal finance because I was like, this is a class that every one of you is going to use later on. Whether or not you were in algebra class and you had to use like I don't know, some kind of theory in that we're like, we don't ever use anymore, but we are going to know how credit cards affect us and stuff. And that's just, I've turned those two together, and I want to help women feel more confident with the way that they're spending money because we don't have a lot of people talking about it.
Hmm. I'm trying to see if there's any difference between what you what you do. So Myrna, what's the difference between you guys' specialty right now?
I would say the only thing that I see as big difference is I'm not allowed to give investment advice where she can, because I'm, as a coach, I can like talk, I can educate you about the rules of the stock market, but I'm not going to be able to tell you to go like, oh, go invest in ABC stock, because there's certain
I
certifications.
can't either. I can't
Oh,
either.
okay,
I
you can't
I
do that.
purely educate my
Okay.
clients and
All
help
right.
them get to the conclusion they need to get to, essentially, and help them learn. what to look for in different investments. They make their own investment decisions.
Okay. So
So,
that I just deal more with the spending and she deals with more of the investing.
Yes.
so there's a lot of similarities here then. So I know the
Yes.
universe put you guys together for a reason. Show up
Yes.
on this day to talk about victories. So if we got to transition any other victories in your personal life or your professional life that you want to share, Myrna, with the world. I know you say you're from Haiti, so I assume the journey from Haiti to America was something that maybe folks would love to get to know about you. Would you like sharing that part as well?
And well, that journey was, a little bit different for me because being part of, I went to an American high school in Haiti. So it's a different, profile than, the average person that lives in poverty in Haiti and so forth. But it was very, it was still a cultural shift, right? Coming to the United States, going to a state where it was cold, there was snow that I had not been acclimated to, and being at a school where, was, very much very predominantly white, coming from Haiti, which is a predominantly Black country, and moving into that particular culture. It was different because I had not experienced what we call racism. And it was a different world in Haiti, predominantly Black. You can do anything, right? You can do everything. There are no limitations. Nobody's telling you that you can't do something because you're Black. So that was something that I had to deal with when I came to the United States. I was like, what? Why are you looking at me differently because I'm Black? That was like a what? This is crazy. So that was a shift, in and of itself to deal with racism, which I have dealt with in the United States, and being the only Black person in a room of executives and higher level, and feeling the pressure of having to really prove myself even more, not only just as a Black person, but as a woman as well in the finance field, which is very male dominated. And so having to deal with those, factors or something that was, definitely something in my life, and working in environments where people didn't necessarily see my value, and being able to, you know, move on from there and understand that, hey, if you're not seeing my value, I'm going to move on and go somewhere where somebody's going to value me, and see what I bring to the table. So those were interesting dynamics for me as a person and as a professional, growing up or coming up in the United States.
Mm. And you were celebrating today, my friend, because it sounds like what you
Yes.
do, you love what you do, and I see both you guys just love what you do. So I'm not a fan of numbers, to give you right up. Like that's not my thing. Because number, I can't manage the emotion on numbers. When I was in the military, I did 22 years in the finance corps in the military, and for some reason, I navigated towards like the policy and operation stuff, right? I didn't like the accounting piece and all that stuff. So when I'm hearing you guys talk, I'm like, power to the ladies, the folks that love numbers, because that's not me. I'm not a fan because the numbers was messing with my emotions. I never liked it because I just never liked numbers. So power to both of you guys for loving numbers and working on people that doesn't do so with numbers, because some people just made for that stuff. I just want to thank you for that. And Tina, how are you doing? A little bit about your background, if you don't mind sharing. I don't know how you got to where you are today, and what would be some part of your story, your backstory that would just kind of paint a picture of why you are, why you love what you love today.
I think again, it's because I was a personal finance teacher and I loved to work with my students, and it was just awesome to be able to see them learn new things that they were going to use in their own lives. And now that I'm working with widows, I had a client who, when her and I started working together, she initially was like, "Oh, I think I want you to help my daughter with her finances." And I'm like, okay. And then the more we were talking, her and I started working, and she's like, actually, maybe I need you to work with me on my finances. So her and I started coaching together. We got her finances under order. And I shared with her a tool that she shared with her daughter. And that tool was able to help her, the daughter, actually start becoming more intentional with her spending. And so I think the great thing about what I do is that we're not just helping, I'm not just helping widows, I'm helping like future generations of women, of sons, to be able to talk with their wives about money. And I just, that's so awesome that we can help that, because for me, the crazy thing about being a widow is that 80% of women are going to, when they pass away, they will be a widow.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
as women, we need to get our noses into this area of finances, because we are going to be the ones managing it. And so it's important for us to know it. And I think that that's one of the things that because I'm open about what happened with my husband, and his death, that I really want more women to be more prepared, for this life that they're going to eventually be a part of.
What are some of the tools that you use? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, so I obviously we use the spreadsheet from an Excel document, but the tool that I love to use, it's called Cube Money. It's a digital bank, and it's, so instead of using, how like they always have the envelope system. Well, with this, they have digital envelopes. So when you put your money into it, you will say where you want it to go, and you're automatically organizing it. And then when you go to use the card, you have to open up the cube that it belongs to, and you spend your money. So for me, I have like soccer, because my sons are in soccer. Then I have like, Christmas money on it. I have my own like mom spending money. And so those are the areas that tend to be a little leaky for me, as we talked about earlier. So if I don't have money on my cube, then get
Mhm.
I can't buy the purchase. And so the reason I like this app, it's because you have to, instead of being, it's proactive. It's like in your face that you have like $100, or you only have $50, versus like, if you put it on a spreadsheet, it's like, well, it's already gone. So, that's why I paired the two together with my coaching.
It says it's called Cube.
Cube money.
Oh, Cube Money. Ah, interesting. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yep.
And does that sound familiar to you, Myrna? What are some of your tools or
I
systems?
use your good old-fashioned spreadsheets,
Mhm.
right? So I make sure that, everything's in there in the spreadsheet. I also tell my people from an investing standpoint, the CNBC app is very good, because that's a way for them to put down a list of companies that they want to watch, and they can watch them and see what happens and kind of get a feel for what the market does. And then they can, if they have, let's say, Apple on their watch list, then if news comes out on Apple, it'll populate on their app automatically. Everybody has their phone with them, right? They're glued to our bodies essentially for the most part. So that's kind of a way to get people educated and make the stock market less intimidating, because then you get information about it. You see how these companies are trading every day. So the CNBC app is a tool that I tell my clients to use, because it gives them a feel for what's happening in the markets.
Powerful. Well, thank you so much. That was incredible. I've learned a lot today, and I know who to call. I know who to call if I'm running into numbers problems. I know who to call. So if folks got to reach you and connect with you to get more deep into what you specialize in or you add value to their life through your work, how would they be able to reach you, Myrna?
I can be reached on Facebook and LinkedIn under my name, Myrna Laine-Hyppolite. I also have a company website, which is empowerfinancialwellness.com. So those are the places where people can essentially reach me. On Facebook, you will see all of my videos. I go live there very often, where
Mm.
people can find out more information about me, about my events in the bio of Facebook. I have a Linktree link that will tell you about anything that's happening with me, past podcasts that I've done, so that you can get a feel for who I am.
Incredible. Thank you so much. And same question for you, Tina.
Yeah, so I'm on social media as at Widow's Wallet. And I have,
Widow's Wallet. I like that name.
yes, so because with the Widow's Wallet, you have all of your identity and your money is all in there together. So that's what we worked on in your coaching is all aspects of yourself. So, yep. So it's at Widow's Wallet on all the platforms and then also widowswallet.com.
Awesome. And closing question I ask everyone that shows up because I'm curious to know. Um, what is that one thing or two thing when people do it just drives you crazy? What would that be that answers that question for me, Tina? What people do that drive you crazy? One or two things you can share.
Wow. I think I mean, sticking with the finance world, it really is when these experts are shaming people for their past decisions. And
Mm.
it's like nails on the chalkboard because I'm like, it's so rude. And that's something that I can't stand. So really, it is when these experts are mean to people for their past decisions. And I just want to, yeah, that I can't stand. If
That
that's
is
what
one.
you're going for.
That is one. I know you got another one. What's the other one? If you need to think about it, I can go to Myrna. We can come back.
We'll go to Myrna and I'll come back.
All right, Myrna. I know you got some. What do you got?
Two things. Number one is if you are at a company and the company offers a 401k and the company is giving a match on that 401k, that really works me because when a company gives you a match, that means it's free money. Who's going to give up on free money? If you give up on free money because you don't know, then that is very frustrating to me because I'm like, it's free money, people. Who doesn't want free money? If I said, okay, I'm gonna give you $100 today, you're not gonna take it. Take it. So not participating in your company's 401k, especially if they have a match, is a problem. And the second thing that kind of grates me is sometimes people procrastinate when they tell me, hey, I really want to invest, but I don't know. I have time if I have time for it. And they procrastinate. Procrastination is expensive. Putting off something like investing is very expensive because investing the way it works is over time. So if you procrastinate and put that off because hey, you're just a procrastinator or you're not putting it top of mind and it's time is passing you by, that's expensive. That's more costly. So those are a couple things that really get me worked up.
I conceded already. You got work. You're getting work up now.
So
Tina.
I would say my other one is when people tell grievers that they should be over it by now. Because
Mhm.
with grief, you will never be over the loss of your loved one. And so for me, when people say, well, why aren't you over this yet? Or, that shouldn't bother you. I mean, my husband has been deceased for over 10 years, and I allowed myself to be upset when my son graduated high school because he should be there. Like my late husband should be experiencing that. And so when we tell people that it's something they should be over, it's like, no, never going to be over it, but it doesn't have to consume me on a daily basis like it did in the beginning. So that's my other nails on the chalkboard.
Nails on the chalkboard. I love it. Okay, so there's here. So we are at the top of the hour almost, and I love this conversation we just had. I really appreciate you guys showing up at the same time with the same kind of background, tackling the same anti-hero out there in the world. So you guys being heroes to those folks that are numbers challenged, money challenged, so forth and so on, future oriented. So appreciate your time today. And if you got any last word, anything you want to share that we haven't talked about, this perfect time to go and share that right now. If you have anything you want to share. So I will start with anyone you guys can jump on, wherever.
I just appreciate you having this podcast for us to come on and share our stories with the world. So thank you.
Absolutely, you're welcome.
Echo Tina's sentiments. Thank you so much, Asher.
Of course. And with that, you tune into Padora's Awareness Podcast, a place where we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. And you've gotten wiser today. Just listen to Myrna and Tina talk about their specialty, the stuff they love doing every day, wake up every day, want to do it. Because not everybody want to wake up every day and go play with numbers. but some people do. And when you find those people, gotta keep them close. So keep Myrna and Tina close if you can. And with that, my friend, make it an awesome day.